I've got news for all of you who have a literary bent, and I'm using the word bent deliberately. The Brontes are now gay icons. How about that? I'll tell you more about it when I've told you that I'm Granniopteryx and I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I wonder if that was as much a surprise to you as it was to me. The museum claims, that is the Bronte Museum in Hawarth, claims the Bronte sisters were genderqueer. LGBT event includes the authors because they used male pseudonyms when they were publishing their books. Do you know that is the most illiterate sort of reason I could possibly think of? Even today, female authors give initials rather than full names because they know if they're marked out as women, the writing is going to be perceived as being weaker than if it were a man. J.K. Rowling, that's right up to this time. Ursula Le Guin, a bit further back, when she published her first story in Playboy, it was about 9 to 12 clones or something. I don't remember what it was called, but when she published that story, they said, why don't you call yourself UK Le Guin? Playboy didn't want to put out a story with a woman's name on it. This is absolutely a thing. And I remember hearing, I don't remember, this was a while ago, but an orchestra, when they were having auditions for an orchestra, it was something like the New York Philharmonic, I mean, it was a big orchestra, they decided they should put the interviewees behind a screen to play, so that the interviewers didn't know if it was a male or a female, because your perception of the playing is changed by what you see. And it was worse, of course, in the mid-19th century. I do wish that would go away. In the mid-19th century, a museum, it doesn't deserve the name of museum if it's coming out with that, has sparked controversy, I'll bet, after suggesting the Bronte sisters may have been genderqueer because they used androgynous pen names. Material posted by the Bronte Parsonage Museum, and it was there to celebrate Pride Month. What the double F does the Bronte Museum have to do with Pride Month? It's there to deal with the Bronte sisters, 3 remarkable women with amazing views. They had such astonishing views for their time. I mean, Jane Eyre, not enough people realise this, but Jane Eyre, who was sort of being tricked into a bigamous marriage with Rochester, ran away, not because she was having an adulterous affair, because he was asking her to maintain an adulterous affair with him, but because she didn't want to be dependent on him. And she ran away. And then she came into money. She inherited some money. As soon as she inherited the money, she went back to Rochester, prepared to be his mistress because she had independent means. But the actual living in sin with somebody didn't bother her. Well, it bothered her, but she was prepared to live with that. When did she write this novel? In the 1850s? I don't remember the exact date. The middle of the 19th century, crinoline skirts and Victorian values. And she was a parson's daughter. No wonder she published under another name. I mean, this was a Victorian lady, a parson's daughter, talking about deliberately living in sin with someone. an adulterous relationship as well, because as far as she knew, Rochester's wife was still alive. Of course, God, in a way, intervened. The wife had been killed in a house fire before. And Rochester had been suitably punished, by the way. But that wasn't the point. She went there prepared to throw all the social norms aside. The tenant of Wildfell Hall, who was that? That was Anne Bronte, wasn't it? And she was talking about a drunken husband, being shackled to a drunken husband. And then there's another one, Villette. Charlotte Bronte wrote Villette. It was about a young woman who was a teacher in an academic institution. And in that, she fell in love with the head of that academic institution, who was an intellectual and an older man. And at the same time as she had this relationship, this engagement with this man, she was also lusting after a handsome young man who was actually in love with somebody else, so off territory for him. But she was writing a book about a woman in the middle of the 19th century, a woman having sexual feelings for a young man who was out of her reach. These were astonishing things to write about. Well, Wuthering Heights was just the sort of passion that Victorian ladies were not expected to have. They broke all the bounds. You don't need to talk about them being gender queer. Gender queer. Oh my God. Okay, and then, here, scholars discuss Lucy Snow's gender queerness, noticeable in the scene where Paul Emanuel encourages Lucy to act in a play dressed up as a man. It was a girls' school. There weren't any men around. And Professor Emanuel was the person Lucy Snow was in love with. I mean, that marriage was intended. It doesn't quite turn out like that, but that's another story. And so she was supposed to act the male lead. And it says in the book, she says she refused to wear men's clothes. She wore a man's jacket, but she refused to put trousers on, even for the act. She wore a skirt anyway. She said people would just have to use their imaginations. And they're trying to force this into the mould of some sort of homosexuality. What? And this is a museum. These are people who are running a museum dedicated to these three remarkable women. Aren't they remarkable enough? Why do they have to be some sort of a reflection of your wokeness? This reminds me very much of the Glastonbury thing I was talking about a few videos ago. I'll leave a link to that, where the trustees go mad over wokeness. And then they say here, in the 19th century, it was common for female writers to adopt male names. Not just in the 19th century, in the 2000s. I want to tell you, Dickens read Jane Eyre, and everyone was wondering who this, Currer Bell, who this fellow was. And Dickens said, that's a woman there. He could tell, despite the shocking content of the novel. So there's Hawarth, there's the Parsonage. Pride at the Parsonage, the Brontes and gender identity. Just look at that. They wrote good novels. They wrote in good language. They described amazing things. In Wuthering Heights, the description of the Yorkshire moors, you're almost there. You don't need gender identity in that sort of writing. Joan Smith, the author of Misogynies, criticised the Yorkshire Museum that was the one-time home of the sisters. She told the Telegraph, what next? The Bronte brothers? Absolutely. It's... Oh, I'm so angry. Well, who's running this museum anyway? Rebecca York. Ha! York, director of Bronte's Parsonage Museum, said, to mark Pride Month, the Bronte's Parsonage Museum has been exploring queer history in relation to the times and works of the Brontes with a series of social media posts. Pride at the Parsonage. Oh, you silly woman. You silly, silly woman. So it says here, Charlotte, this is their post, and here's the rainbow flag and all the colours here. Why aren't they? Why didn't it turn out that all the Brontes were actually black or something? Published their works under androgynous pseudonym. No, they published their works under male pseudonyms because of Victorian sexism. That's what they were doing. As well as wanting to remain anonymous to prevent their works being prejudged because they were written by women. Okay. And the pseudonym gave her a unique freedom. So why are they running a rainbow flag over that? It's got nothing to do with it. They are trivialising everything here. I'm so angry. What a bunch of tossers. Okay, till next time. You can help my channel by clicking like, by subscribing, by clicking the notification bell, and by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels are in the description, also links to donation sites, but really the best way you can help me is simply by clicking like. Thank you.